All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today, me and Nick here with you a 2023 preview and prediction for the Pittsburgh Panthers. Look at this coaching staff. Pat Narduzzi enters his ninth season, 62-41 record all time. Frank Cignetti, third stint with the program, second season in the role as the offensive coordinator. Randy Bates, sixth year with the school. Quietly, the Panthers have built a consistent program, very underrated player in the ACC. Look at this offense. Frank Cignetti last year shows up, implements more of this run-heavy style, play action. Keaton Slovis had a fair season, didn't exactly pan out. He's now at BYU, leading the door open for Phil Jerkovich, who worked together with Cignetti at Boston College. Jerkovich is a good fit for this scheme. Great off play action, good toughness, stands tall in the pocket, has enough arm to make throws at all levels. Does a good job of driving his throws with some good zip. Has the high arcing throwing motion, 6'5", 214. Jerkovich certainly has been an interesting career for him. A couple seasons ago, this was a highly important player for Boston College in 2021. Injuries certainly didn't help him. 2022, the offensive line was flat out awful. So he's been, beat up around the block this past couple of seasons. But back in 2020, Nick, he really shined. And a lot of people, after a 2,500-yard season, considered him to be a big breakout player. Jerkovich now reuniting with Cignetti gives this offense a bit of a boost. After a really good season where they're 50th in yards per game, they actually had pretty adequate balance. What are the original expectations for Jerkovich now? I think that he's very excited to be in this position. If he can stay healthy, I think he's going to do very good.
I think Jerkovich is a good fit here. Good quarterback, great in play action. Limited times we saw him at Boston College due to fighting injuries. But I think Jerkovich is a good fit overall. I think he's a solid piece for this puzzle. 6'5", 214, fantastic side. Good throwing motion, nice zip on the ball. Very good quarterback here. I think this fits the scheme perfectly. Solid for this pro-style offense.
And you look at the weapons he has to work with. Keontae Mumpfield, a fluid athlete, great career area quickness, excels as a catch and run threat, creative, savvy, balanced route runner at 6'1", 180. Bub Means, he's certainly struggled with hands and ball security, but he's been an efficient game breaker at times for them. Would certainly like to see an increase in receptions, though. Dejon Reynolds at 6'2", 204. Only caught a few passes for Florida last season. Still a young player. Very limited depth after that. I got true freshman Israel Polk from St. John Bosco, Lamar Samore from Miami Central. Two true freshmen that arrived from strong high school programs. That's pretty impressive. They're able to snag these players, though, Nick. Narduzzi certainly put in some work in different areas of the country. Gavin Barthmello, he's an athletic option at tight end at 6'5", 250. Was a suitable pass blocker, capable of a lot more. Certainly expect more from him. Didn't have the season I thought he would have last year. He did have a couple highlight reel plays, though. I think this is a pretty adequate receiving core for the offensive style. And again, some of those guys that are able to, pick up from the high school level. Pretty impressed with that for the long term.
Not a bad unit overall. Mumpfield's a good number one wide receiver here. 551 yards receiving this past season, 9.5 yards per catch, one score for him. That number's certainly got to rise. Needs to have the yards per catch in the double digits. Certainly Bub Means, good player as long as he keeps the drops down. 401 yards this past season, 14.9 yards per catch and two scores for him. Bartholomew, good tight end, 283 yards receiving, 13.5 yards per catch. Bradley Hammond, a couple catches here and there. Some good numbers for him. Plus they brought in three talented freshmen in Zion Fowler, Isaiah Polk, and Lamar Seymour. Very talented players. Seymour, great in the slot. Good player to have out of high school. Very nice, talented recruiting class here. Brought these guys into high school programs. They got a lot of good experience. This is a pretty good wide receiving unit. I like it a lot.
And obviously this style is a little bit ancient, not like a Stanford maybe or an Iowa by any means, but this certainly run-heavy style where you're lining up in the eye, running downhill. Certainly not as relevant now in this game of college football, but it really worked for them. 42nd with 183 yards per game on the ground. Israel Abanikanda, he took the reins of this offense and was phenomenal. 6 yards per carry, he had 20 touchdowns, 1,400 yards. This offense was so good at running the football. He had 320 and 6 touchdowns against Virginia Tech, Nick. These guys really figured it out. He was pumping out 100-plus yards on a weekly basis. This was a very impressive year for this ground attack. Certainly lacked some consistency at times. The efficiency was only about 4.5 yards per carry due to the high-end volume. But I think Rodney Hammond, he's going to take this lead back role with ease. A physical runner, very impressive strength for being 5'9", 195. Explodes well as a north-south runner. Some good cut ability also. Sibo Flemster, he also has a physical presence to him. Derek Davis rounds out a formidable trio from LSU. Hammond, I think he's going to get a lot of work this year. If this group can stay healthy, I think they're going to do just fine. I think they'll be in that same area, at least 150 to 170 yards per game on the ground. It's really going to help Jerkovich out. But if they start to get beat up a little bit, kind of like they were early last year, certainly could be a problem.
Hammond had some good numbers in limited appearances, only 8 games, 460 yards on the ground, 4.2 yards per carry, and 5 scores for him. He's going to take over that like a more relaxed role. Like you said, I think he's a good back to have. Good, I like the speed on him, solid back, and overall it's not a bad running back for him at all.
Yeah, towards the end of the year, the ground game certainly started to lose some momentum. The steam certainly slowed down. And that's where this offensive line needs to take hand. They only returned 4 starters up front. That's really good for them. Branson Taylor was solid left tackle. He'll still need to improve, though. Ryan Jacoby mainly played at right tackle. He struggled immensely as a pass blocker. He's going to slide to left guard. Jake Cradle at center saw some time at right guard, allowed 23 pressures. Blake Zubovak at right guard, probably the team's second best returning pass blocker behind right tackle Matt Goncalves, 6'6", 315. Didn't allow a single sack last year at either tackle spot. 830 snaps for him. Very impressive season. He should push for all conference honors this fall. They were awful in 2020 and have improved drastically year by year up front. I expect them to once again be one tick better this season. Physical run blocking group with some good experience. I think they'll be better in pass protection also. Pretty happy with this Panther offensive line for Signetti to work with, Nick.
It's a pretty good offensive line, good unit overall. I like the guy's size here. Branson Taylor's a good left tackle there. Ryan Jacoby at left guard as well. Nice guys to have on your left side. Good size there. Certainly solid pieces. This is a good unit. Physical guys. I like this a lot.
Biggest thing needs to improve is the vertical passing game. They need to find some better presence, and I think they're certainly going to do that. Phil Jerkovich stretched the field very well at Boston College. Granted, he did have Zay Flowers out there running routes for him, so that certainly makes life a little easier. B-plus unit for me. I think they're going to have great balance. Same numbers as last year. I think they'll score a couple more points per game, maybe that 35 range or so. But I think in terms of pass yards per game, they're going to improve in that area a little bit. But I think they're going to be in top 50 in most categories, just like they were last year, Nick. Very good, underrated offense. Again, though, the running game, don't want them to lose steam like they did at the end of last year. And I don't think they will. I think Jerkovich is going to help them improve that vertical passing presence. B-plus for me, very happy with this unit.
This is a good unit overall. I think there's some serious talent here. I like what they can produce. I think as long as they improve, like you said, the vertical passing game, I think Jerkovich really does help with that. Get these guys involved. Mumfield's a very good piece to have if you get the true freshman wide receivers involved early on. This is a good unit. B+ is a good grade for them.
On the defensive side of the ball, they didn't do much in the portal. Lost 4 guys, only added 1 player. Return only 5 starters. They lose their top 4 tacklers. The biggest news for them, 14-plus interceptions each the last 3 seasons, so they're, adept at forcing a lot of turnovers. The defensive line, very notable turnover on this side of the ball. Kalaji Kansi, biggest notable departure there. Devin Danielson, though, next man up, was a stout run defender as a rotational piece, being 6'2", 300. David Green, also a veteran who played good ball in the interior. Tyler Bentley, DeAndre Jules, both were solid. All 4 are redshirt seniors. That's great experience and depth on your 2 deep on the interior. 4th-year man, Dayon Hayes. He's expected to be the lead man off the edge. Nakai Johnson, Bam Brema. We'll look to find time and production as well. Very sound unit, even if at first glance they lack good numbers. They'll coach these boys up. Slight fallback versus the run where they were 8th against last year. They do have, again, lose some good talent up front, but they seem to just fill these guys in year after year, Nick. They're tops in the nation in terms of sacks and tackles for loss each season. 91 tackles for loss this past season. A bit of a dip, but the sack numbers were certainly up to par with 48 of them. This is a great, well-coached defensive line. They play with plenty of physicality, and that experience once more has certainly been a staple of this program.
Very good defensive line, great unit overall. Dayon Hayes, good player, 17 total tackles, 4.5 tackles lost, 3.5 sacks, only 8 games for him. So solid production out of Hayes. I think he's a really good piece to have. Devin Danielson as well. He had 17 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss. Want to see more production out of him this season. David Green's another good player. He had 22 total tackles, 4.5 tackles lost, 3 sacks for Green. Nikhil Johnson as well. He has a chance to step up. He wasn't involved a whole lot this past season. He only played in 5 games. But this is a good size unit. These guys add a lot of experience. Good. There was some turnover, but overall this is a very good unit. Next man up sort of thing. They're really good in terms of getting sacks. They're going to try and get that production this year.
Look at the middle of their defense. They lose Tyler Wiltz, Servassier Dennis, but they reload in the middle. Solomon DeShields was a good run defender. We have an increased snap count. Production should come with that. Shane Simon was an elite coverage backer, the former Notre Dame transfer. Bang Ali Kamara saw plenty of time, really struggled. He's going to have to take that next leap. Did have 7 pass breakups. Brandon George, he was quite solid in his limited appearance. This is a sound linebacking core altogether. Not much to worry about here. At first glance, kind of like the defensive line. The guy's coming back. Production's not really evident, Nick, but this is a team that certainly knows how to utilize their players up front and the guys at linebacker. Dennis was a phenomenal pass rusher for them over the past couple seasons. I expect that to be the same with guys like DeShields and Kamara this upcoming season. What are your thoughts on the middle of this defense that, again, 8th against the run last season, due in large part to these guys in the middle?
Bengali Kamara, good returning, one of your top returning tacklers here, 49 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, a sack, plus 7 pass breakups, good numbers for him. Shanann Simon as well, 46 total tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 6 pass breakups for him. Solomon DeShields, 19 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks for him. Brendan George, limited appearances, but he had a tackle for loss and a sack, plus 13 total tackles. Good numbers. I like this middle unit. Yes, replacing Servatia Dennis is going to be a tough shoes to fill as your leading tackler, but overall, this is a good unit. That's some nice hard-hitting guys.
You look at the secondary, in 2021, this was one of the nation's worst pass defenses, and I was expecting them to get back to typical Narduzzi style of defense, and that was being very sound in the secondary. They were certainly better by about 30-plus yards per game. They're down to about 56% opponent completion rating, and again, they still continue to force a lot of turnovers in the back end. That's something that has not changed. I think they're going to be much better this upcoming season. They'll continue to progress, led by a great cornerback duo, MJ Devonshire, quick feet, good change of direction, mirrors very well underneath. He's a tough run defender as well. Really good awareness and some nice eyes. Secondary still trying to find its groove, but still a ball hawking unit. Marquise Williams on the other side was a really strong performer at corner at 5'9", 180. Not much production for him, but the ball rarely came his way with how locked down he was. A.J. Woods, who'll be the backup corner, was a great tackler. They'll have to get him on the field a good bit this year. Stout cornerback rotation. Javon McIntyre's role is indetermined as the top 4 snap getters from the slot all depart. He was 5th. He'll likely be asked to man strong safety. Was a solid player. Might get him involved in the slot, though. He got less than 200 snaps last year, though. Phillip O'Brien wasn't all that great last year. He's going to be at that other safety spot. Donovan McMillan, 6'2", 210 safety from Florida. He's the only portal add. I wonder what his attraction was, Nick, considering it. He's the only guy they went after on this side of the ball. I think the secondary is going to continue to get better, led by Williams and Devonshire on the outside. I do want to see this safety duo start to get back to typical Narduzzi style. Guys like Damar Hamlin, Paris Ford, elite in the back end over the years for Narduzzi. Same can be said for the units he had at Michigan State. What else can they do to improve on this side of the ball?
This is a good unit overall. Devonshire is a nice piece, hard-hitting safety, 34 total tackles, 8 pass breakups, 3 interceptions for him. A.J. Wood, 13 pass breakups, good numbers, 28 total tackles for him. Marquise Williams, he had 2 picks, 24 total tackles, including 2 pick sixes. Javon McIntyre, like to see him be involved in various roles. He had 17 total tackles. P.J. O'Brien had 12 total tackles. This is a good unit. I think there's good rotational pieces here. These guys are hard-hitting, ball-hawking defensive backs that grab interceptions, 14-plus interceptions the last 3 seasons. So obviously these guys get after the ball, and I think they'll continue to do that and improve. I like this unit to be where they were this past season, 71st in the nation. I think they can improve that, certainly cut that number down and get it closer to kind of comparing to that rush yards per game number, which is below 100.
Yeah, Eric Hallett, another key departure in the secondary. I just love the way they use the DBs here. Very, lots of versatility, variety of different talents. It's always fun to see what Narduzzi can do. Even when they struggle, they still seem to be a force you got to reckon with on a weekly basis. A- unit for me. Is that too high, Nick? I think the secondary, again, they're going to improve. Happy with the middle of their defense and the defensive lines. Veterans galore. Year after year, they're very tough in terms of sacks and tackles for loss. They always put up great numbers. So I'm going to go with an A-. I think their numbers last year certainly going to improve once more. They're going to get down to about 21 points per game this season. And I think the yards per contest number, at least through the air, will also come down to inside the top 50. Some lofty expectations, but I think they're going to accomplish it this year.
I think A-, certainly B+ range for this defense. There are some good numbers. They lose some serious talent, but I think the secondary is very good. The defensive line, they continue to produce talent overall, next man up sort of mentality. Defensive line is very good. They always need to get after the quarterback. This is a good unit of some hard-hitting players.
Looking at the schedule preview and prediction, Desmond Howard last year had this team in the playoff, which we all knew was not a good prediction at all. But coming into this season, it would actually make some sense as a good sleeper pick. I think Pitt has all the tools to be a contender in this conference. O-line should get better. I'm a fan of the power run game and the versatility. Very confident backfield. Djokovic reunites with Signetti, who's been good with him in the past, and has the starting weapons to produce. I think they'll certainly stretch vertically a lot better. I think the defense will get even better in its own right. This unit has always been built off getting into the backfield. They have plenty of veterans who understand the philosophy in the front seven. Secondary under Narduzzi, always a strong point. Good ball club, top to bottom, Nick. 9-3 for me. Schedule's not the toughest by any means, but Cincinnati, you cross over with them. You play at West Virginia, some notable, interesting games there. I don't think it's really much of a slouch in conference for who is in front of them. North Carolina and Louisville come to them. I do see them losing to Duke and Florida State, and I think on the road at Notre Dame is certainly going to be tough. What do you make of this Pittsburgh schedule this season?
I like this very balanced schedule. Two former Big East rivals. They play an out-of-conference in Cincinnati and the backyard brawl at West Virginia. I think they should win both those games handily. North Carolina, Louisville, both at home. Nice draws. Florida State, Duke. Tougher opponents at home. I think they lose those games. I agree with you. They're at Notre Dame. They could shock the Fighting Irish in South Bend. I think it's certainly possible with the talent this team has. I like scheduling them out of conference. They play Syracuse, Boston College, Wake, Virginia Tech. Balanced schedule for me overall. I like the schedule a lot. I think 9-3 is a fair grade, which I think is a pretty good grade if you're Pat Narduzzi and Pittsburgh and Pitt. You want to be at that 9-3 range. This is a good team who has a very balanced offense and a very good defense, which is a recipe for success in the ACC. I like this team a lot. I think 9 wins is certainly very achievable.
The season finale is at Duke in Durham. A little bit of an error there. They do play Syracuse in the Bronx, also Yankee Stadium, November 11th. That will be an interesting contest. 3:30 game there. Certainly love to see a variety of different stadiums being used in college football. But again, I think this is a team that's got no talk one bit, and I think that could certainly upset some things. I think being undefeated going into that Notre Dame game certainly can draw some attention. Should be an interesting season overall. Big fan of Pat Narduzzi and what he's built here at Pitt. I think it's going to be a great year once again, Nick. Appreciate you joining me.
I think it's going to be a great year. This is a good team, has a good defense and a good offense, and a really exciting team.
Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.